everyone, how you doing today? It's Tony Flath, and look at, I've got Neil. Neil, you got another Neil on your back there.
Yeah, my alter ego, Tony.
Awesome, awesome. How you doing today, mate?
Yeah, very good. Very hot in London, as it has been for the last month or two. But yeah, it's lovely. Yeah,
Nice, nice,
very
nice.
nice.
Cool. It's been hot here too. We've been getting good weather, and man, we'll take it because the winters are cold, cold, cold. And you get some pretty cold, rainy weather as well, right? So, but you had quite a hot stretch. I think you needed the rain there
Yeah.
after a while. Yeah,
Well, it's
yeah.
going to be hot all week this week again. Right? So wonderful. In the mid-30s apparently.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks so much, Neil, for being on today on Talk with T-Man. A while back, we did a little 2 minutes shout out there introducing you, so certainly fun to lock down some time and have a better chat. So, why don't we start off with, I know we met through the social media, online, through conversations and groups on cloud computing, certainly with Ian Moyes and his great cloud computing list. We've been connected through them. Shout out to Ian. Certainly great chatting back and forth, and then all through this cybersecurity and everything that's changing in that world and in that perspective. Certainly enjoy what we go back and forth on there. But let's start off today with a little more background of how Neil came to be. How did you end up where you're at?
Oh my God, we haven't got. How long have we got?
Well, should I edit it?
Well, you know what? I'll give you the elevator pitch for Neil Cattermull. How about that? Right? I'll try to anyway. My first job while I was studying was at IBM. Funny enough, and IBM had a very prestigious location in central London, right behind Selfridges. And I was a customer engineer, which was we were a CE in those days. Now, can you imagine? I'm 20 years old, and I'm going to some of the biggest places in the world to fix liquid-cooled tape machines. It's just incredible, insane, right?
Wow, that's cool.
And John Lewis and everywhere else, and and there was lots of women, which I'm very hot-blooded, heterosexual
You're 20
male.
years old, yeah. You're going
I'm
around,
20,
yeah.
having a great time, right? So,
Yeah.
So then from there, I got poached by Olivetti, and I became one of their top trainers, and I was the trainer. So they would parachute me out anywhere or train me on new tech, and I would train the trainers in each region, and then that was great. Did that for about 5 years of my life. Then from there, went to a place called Thomson Financial, which then came Thomson Reuters. I was head of field service for Europe, jetting around the globe, all over the place, integrating data feeds into banking systems and stuff like that. Then I went to Merrill Lynch, and then I went to Associate Director of Technology for London. Then I went to Merrill Lynch, became Deputy IT, West LB, Deputy IT Director, going out to Düsseldorf every week for 2 days. That was the Holiday Inn in Düsseldorf was my special friend.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Then I started my own businesses and did a couple, made some money on one, lost a lot of money on another, and broke even on another one. And then basically then I was a gun for hire, sort of come in, reshape my business and see what we can do. And up until about 6 years ago, when I decided that I wanted to do more on an analyst play, write articles, business modelling, we compare the cloud, flew everywhere, interviewed everyone that I could ever imagine, all over the world. So I amassed an awful lot of knowledge. But sadly, all good things come to an end. I got divorced. No fault of my own. I just want to put that out there. And I have my son every other week, so my wings are clipped. Most of my travel stopped, and so I'm a commercial director of an SME tech company. So, and that we just advise and consult and provide a handful of managed services to small to large cap companies, really.
Interesting. It's real interesting to get your technical background there. You certainly had some scope and some variety there from a young age, right?
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
I mean, I one of some of the claim to fame. I implemented a whole solution for Thompson's that allowed them to not travel. And it's funny, really. I look back, and I did it because I didn't want to travel myself. Really, it was pretty selfish of me. But
Yeah.
I introduced basically a knock, really, for all the SCO Unix data feeds all around the globe, because I was fed up with travelling, and I was fed up with my engineers resigning because I travelled so much. So
Yeah.
I spent probably about a month and a half, put together, mapped the IP addresses for just basic telnet sessions, really, for every data feed we had on the planet, so we can do remote tasks, some shell scripts, reboots, and it brought down the travel budget. I mean, we're about 9/10, really, and
Wow.
it was fantastic. So no one needs to travel so much, and more often me, really, because that sounds really selfish, but I was traveling from week to week to week, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So.
Yeah, I've traveled enough in my younger days, and it can get a little much. It's exciting. You get to see all over. That's always all neat, right?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So you really did some early days virtual desktop kind of work, eh? To control and do things remotely. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, and that was based on SCO Unix at the time.
Yeah.
Not even Solaris. It was migrated to eventually, but just some remote shell scripts. And just some housekeeping tasks, and that just got bigger and better. That was quite funky, really. But so I used to be a really, really good tech in the day. But then you obviously, as you get older, you got to make a leap. Do you want to stay technical and be even more technical? Or do you want to analyze that tech and advise on that tech, or sell that tech, or become into a more managerial play? And, nobody is, I always say, you don't want to be the oldest techie in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
no,
the technology changes so quickly, you have to keep up constantly. So now from a conceptual level, it's much easier for me to see, well, because that grounding's already there. Mm-hmm. You can see a concept come and go. You can analyze and go, I know what that does, I know how it would work. I don't need to implement it, I can advise on it, So it's that I think everyone needs to migrate to, or evolve to that level sooner or later.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And just like Ian was going on and talking about, mainframe and, that whole tied out and tied back in, it sounds like you had some certain exposure and experience with that as well, right? Or, doing some different kind of controls, from that perspective. So you see this whole wash out and wash in. Be curious on your perspective there.
Well, I call it IT fashion. It's like in the 60s you'd had flares, and when in the 70s they come back in fashion, but they're called bootcut.
Yeah.
Same thing with technology. The core principles never really change. It's just the fluff and the dressing around the edges change slightly. To call it something else, but it's still, there's no, from what I've seen so far, a fundamental shift that's completely disruptive based on a new technology. It's always based on aging, creaking technology that just had a facelift and a makeover.
Yeah. Like you do see some emerging points with AI and different controls there that are starting to bridge that gap. Certainly quantum computing. Certainly want to see some more around that change. And you're right. Like even on the blockchain, it's just an automated control of records, really. And there's a lot of power to that, and it'll be curious to see how that is, rolls out. But, certainly, there's some scope to that, and it is just the morph of technology and just the easier access to it. But it's certainly interesting, and I'd be really curious because you do work closely on the cybersecurity side, right?
Yep.
And there's been such a mass amount of change, right? And, better funded, better organized. You look right through social media to government elections and big business, not just a few, but everywhere, right? To like the big, like Equifax breach, right? Like breach after breach. Certainly love to hear more about your story, how you got engaged into that cybersecurity space and, some things you're working on there for sure.
Well, you know what? I said about 2 or 3 years ago, I think about 3 years ago, I said the more online we become with cloud, the more unprotected we become. So, you know, it's like the more visibility you have, the more you need to protect it. And the fact is, we never took that seriously globally, really, until it was too late. You know, so people tend to knee-jerk. They always knee-jerk after the fact and overcompensate to fix a problem. They never actually proactively go, hang on a minute, if we did this and this, wouldn't we be better to do it this way? Because it costs, you know. There's a budget. You need a budget, you need to do a risk profile, you need to do this, you need to do this, and have a steering committee or whatever, depending on the size of the organisation. So people say, we don't need that, we'll just go with what we have, until they get hacked. You know, and inevitably you're going to get hacked one way or another. No one's completely...
It's a given, yeah.
I've seen some products that come close to it, wow, right? But no, it's just and when. So, you know, from a cloud point of view, it was very simple to go, well, okay, now you've hosted centrally, and even not centrally when you're talking about hybrid cloud and disparate APIs out to different public clouds and that manageability of it, you need to secure it, right? So that just makes just logical sense. So that was easy for me to understand, and I do overthink and analyze a lot of it, certainly within security and business modeling. And I thought, well, surely we need to have a layered approach for security. So typically people go, I'll employ one product that does anti-phishing, for example, or one product with anti-malware, or one product with honeypot traps for hackers, you know, or these layered products. But I said, well, look, yes, it's great, but why wouldn't you have a multi-layered approach to security, right? So if you have 7 or 8 layers, the likelihood you're going to get hacked is a lot less. You've only have one. Okay, it's an additional cost, but in all reality, with software the way it's working today and coming to fruition, just have more, right? And not only that, you can scale down, scale up. So you have this multi-layered approach to security, and I think this is one thing that I'm working on at the moment, and I'm doing a talk on this. In fact, I think it's on the 20th September in London.
Oh, cool.
About the managed security service provider of the future. Typically me, it's going to be over the top with my alter ego behind me, and I'll have smoke
He
machines.
goes everywhere with you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to come along to the conference, and I've got a couple more coming, and I've got smoke machines and all sorts, and shock and awe, as they say when you do a presentation, and unveiling what Frontier have put together for a multi-layered approach that's actually makes your life a lot more simpler, and for a security choices point of view. So, but I won't talk too much about that because I don't want to self-publicize. No, especially with yourself behind you. I mean, well, that sounds exciting. That sounds like something you got to live stream. And I agree with you on the layered approach. I know I work enough with quite qualified consultants, and some of the ones that are the real gearheads is one of the first things they look at is your network. Is it a flat network? Yeah.
You got problems right there, right? And you are right. You've got to look at all the device points. You got to look at all the remote access, VPN points, two-factor, logging. There's so many control points that you really need to pay attention because, I think it's really past just, it's not even, that they're in there. It's now becoming how long.
Yeah,
that's certainly what I've seen. 100 days plus, they find that, they've been inside your environment. Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you a story that you might like. I can't tell you what company I was working for at the time. It's quite some time ago. And we were held to ransom. And I was in charge of IT at the time. And the board of the company I was working for pulled all of us into a room and said, look, we've got someone that's saying that we've got to pay them, the irony in bitcoins, right? Back in those days, right? And said, look, they want holding us to ransom. They said they're going to shut us down, right? If we don't pay them $5 million, right? Now that's probably not a lot today, but if you go back like 10, 15 years, it's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And they said, well, Neil, what do you think? And I said, this is the problem, right? I think you're going to have to pay them. And they were uproaring, oh, wait, you have to pay them. I said, well, I can't guarantee the integrity of the personnel, because I can guarantee the integrity of what I'm responsible for. But there is a lot of other people involved in your infrastructure that I'm not responsible for. And I didn't hire them. I didn't do any background checks on them. I don't know who they are, what they've done. And in all fairness, I know our infrastructure is patched to the latest degree and it's fault tolerant. However, I can't guarantee that. I said, if it was me and you want me to make a decision, I'd pay them and trace them. And anyway, we did that. We paid them, traced them, and we caught them maybe 3 months later. Right? However, some of my peers in some other companies weren't, put it this way, they weren't as honest. They said, oh, we're infallible. There's no. And a couple of companies were off the air for over a week. And quite literally, that was it. They lost their jobs. And they were saying, no. And they didn't actually think that through, that actually, it's interesting, you're more likely to have an insider threat for a large organisation than you are from an outsider threat, you know. And you can patch your firewall, you can do this, you can do that, and can block. But actually, internally, you're just a number. Right? Yeah. So quite often the basic traits of background checks and others go overlooked. And these guys hire contractors all the time. They come and go. They come in 3 to 6 months and go off. What's to say that they haven't hidden a payload there that's going to detonate in another 3 months after they've left? Absolutely, right? So absolutely. And people don't realise that. You know, it's quite scary. You know, but that was a true story, by the way.
Wow. And it's true, too, and I've seen this for years in IT. So many times you might go through the rigor of a big company of bringing someone in and doing background checks, but then you just work with outside consultants like nothing. Yeah. With very little kind of control, and they're getting right into your systems as well. And certainly, yeah, they could. That's an easy way to let someone from the outside in, is be inside and then give access outside. It's a good point, yeah.
Things have changed a bit now, but, you know, things are a lot more locked down. There's a lot more internal procedures and policies. But to be honest, the biggest threat is a human threat, you know, at the end of the day. You know, that's just what it is. It's, you know, it really is the biggest threat.
It's like Rob May's human firewall. It's a really great message. It's a great message to share with staff. His TED Talks. You know, he starts it off good with what's your porn star name. He certainly gets your attention quick there. But it is true. Like, even what he identified there, and you see this, right? Like, when you go to a Starbucks, it's never free Wi-Fi Starbucks. But how many people click on that, right?
Because and then they get marketed to, and then their data's sold somewhere else.
Some
and
guys
conveniently, as you walk past that, you walk past that Starbucks, and all of a sudden, there's a great deal on today. You know, if you buy a latte, you'll get 50% off an apple donut, you know, or whatever, right? And you go, oh, where do they come from? Right? And many times when I travelled to the States, that always used to happen. Not so much over here. There's got very strict rules now, certainly with, you know, GDPR and everything else with personal data. That's not the case anymore, but... You know,
they've locked it down. Like, it's like Facebook, just back to Rob's point there, of getting your information just by asking you those questions to create your porn star name. And, you know, you're just ripping and having fun online, and you've given away all your pertinent information. Certainly, so many crafty different ways to work on that. So I'd be curious, like, you know, you're doing a lot of work in the mid-market, you know, and certainly enterprise for years has probably been a little tighter on the lockdown on security. You know, mid-market can be all over, you know, the map. I'd be curious where you're seeing, you know, what you're seeing and how you're making some success there.
You see, mid-market needs to be led. You know, it's an awkward way. You know, you go from an SME point of view, it's Wild West. But mid-market, there's some fundamental structure there, but they just haven't matured. Well, that's probably the wrong word, but they have not matured on the security principles. You know, they're rather outsource, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, as long as you outsource to the right firm. However, a lot of, you know, mid-market and mid-tier companies tend to keep that in-house. So, they'll keep the skill set, they'll try to buy in and manage the outsourcer. Now, the problem is with that is whoever's managing that outsourced security role needs to have a degree of understanding of security in general, and some of them don't, what I've come across. But because the security principles change constantly, just like when we had cloud, when the cloud first started out, it was pure Wild West, and now we're this boom, and then we were on this contraction back, and now it's commoditized to a degree. With security, we've gone for this boom of products. We've got products for this, for this, for this, for this, for this. Now we're going to start seeing that consolidation now. I saw Mimecast bought yet another firm only the other day to bolster up their foothold in the market. And so there's a lot of M&A going on about security now. So, okay, I'll buy this product, I'll buy this product. I don't create it. I'm going to buy, consolidate, and offer new service. And there's a lot of M&A going around with security providers at the moment. And unfortunately, the mid-market, there's all these products. What do I choose? What do I do?
Right.
And there's so many, there's so many even coming out now from Silicon Valley, just going, well, there's another one, there's another one. Oh, really? Oh, there's another one. And it's difficult to keep up. And people are thinking, well, maybe I'll settle down and I'll just wait for a little while until it's all been totally commoditized and commercialized properly. But I don't know. It's a difficult one, really. And, it scares the life out of me, in security terms. As I keep coming back, Tony, you've got to have this layered approach.
Yep.
If you're hosting somewhere, it doesn't matter where it's on premise, in the cloud somewhere, or you've got multiple public clouds with APIs going out to each, or even if you've got some kind of software-defined network that defines over different territories, you've got to secure it with a multi-layered security approach. That's a must. If you don't, if you have one approach, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And I think with your multi-layered approach as well, you're going to enable yourself to tie into new technologies more effectively, right?
Yeah.
You can leverage edge, IoT, you certainly can fuel out more points that you can really leverage and take care of. Maybe you want to put some AI into play. Maybe you want to build some better technology solutions going forward. You certainly are enabling that with a layered approach. So certainly see that. So, we've been chatting for a good while here. Coming into the last few minutes of our chat here, what are some things that, you're really focused down on and, you mentioned that you've got a great chat coming up. It sounds really interesting. I hope it'll be videoed, or I hope we'll get to see that. Certainly look forward to that. But what are some, other things, initiatives that you got on the go that, are really driving you, getting you out of bed every day?
Oh, paying for my divorce. That's the biggest one. Yeah. What else is more important than that, really? To be honest, I love talking about tech, and I've been asked to talk about blockchain, I think at the end of this month, and put together where do I see blockchain going in the future, use cases and cryptocurrency. Now, I had a long chat with the events company about it, and he was just, his jaw just dropped, and he goes, "Oh, never thought about it that way." And I said, "Well, yeah, and I'd love to tell you about it, but I don't want to spoil it for everyone. But I'll give you some snippets of it. And fast forward maybe 10 years time, and Tony, you want to buy a car from me, right? I've got Neil's car sales, and you say, right, I love that Aston Martin. I want that Aston Martin. Yeah, let's go and do a deal." And I go, "That's great." And I say, "Well, so how are you going to pay for that, Tony?" And you'll say, "Well, I've got T-Man crypto, right?" And I go, "Cool, right? Give it to me." Right? You've got crypto in whether it's in your portable or whether it's logged, wherever you've got it, and your own personal currency will be paid, and they'll do a transfer or equation to fiat currencies there and then. Work out exchange rate, bang, bang, yeah, bang, done. So you will be your own asset-based class, right? So That's where I see crypto going. It's going to be a catch-up coin, a T-Man coin. Right? And whatever wealth you've accumulated, that's the value of what you have. Right?
Interesting.
So,
That's very interesting. And what I find interesting with that is where I see things evolving, and maybe you can shed a little further light on that, and certainly you're right down the path, is I see, like, yes, data is the big fuel right now. It's the new oil. It's the, you know, the new electricity, whatever you want to call. But I think identity is even going to play a bigger role. Like, you're touching right on it.
well, there's a good friend of mine who started his own blockchain crypto company, and he's going to be actually a property exchange. And he started it and basically said, look, if you want to remortgage, you don't go to a bank. You can sell 5% of your property on the blockchain with Bitcoin. So then you've got people going, okay, I'll buy £500 worth, £1,000 worth, and it's like crowdfunding. You've got that money, you still live in your property. I don't have to go to a bank at this point. I don't have to go through proof of income. Here we go again. I want it for this and all the paperwork. You can just sell a portion of your property. And he's actually sorted it out in such a way that as soon as you sell that portion, if there may be 1,000 people that have bought a portion of your property, but each one is mentioned on the deeds to your property, and you can still live in it as long as you still own 51% of that property. You can live in it, and then they can buy and sell the other 49% as and when. Right? So
it's really so different. Like it is going to really evolve to this whole different way of doing things. It certainly is. That's going to be interesting to see how that is. Yeah, certainly love to hear more on the blockchain side, and you know, certainly it's got some interesting perspective there. Well, this has been fantastic today. Thanks so much for chatting. I've certainly enjoyed this, and we're going to have to stay engaged for future engagements and keep me up to speed on where you're talking next.
No, I will do, Tony. Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Have a good one.